Today I'm going to show you how to make a Mediterranean-inspired sourdough olive bread. It's freaking delicious. Hi, I'm Sune, and I'm a food geek. Today I'm going to show you how to make a sourdough bread with juicy olives, spiced with herbs that grow in the countries around the Mediterranean Sea. If you already bake sourdough bread, the method itself is probably pretty well known to you. What makes this bread a little bit more of a challenge is having whole olives in the dough. They seem to just pop out all the time when you're shaping, making the shaping process more difficult than the normal sourdough bread. But like anything else, people who bake sourdough bread embrace challenges, learn the techniques, and know how to power through and get things done. Ain't it true? If you're new to this channel, I bake a lot of sourdough bread and I make delicious food from all over the world. I'm on a quest to get the most out of every ingredient, and my goal is to teach you how to do that in simple and understandable steps. So join me by subscribing and ringing the bell so you won't miss any future videos. The herbs that we'll be using to flavor the bread are basil, oregano, rosemary, and thyme. They'll all pair perfectly with the large, juicy Kalamata olives that we'll be using in this bread. Well, enough chit-chat. Let's get started with the recipe.
The written recipe, the ingredients, and the amounts are linked in the card above. In the morning, we'll start by mixing the levain. Add 60 grams of mature sourdough starter to a glass, then 60 grams of whole grain wheat flour, 60 grams of bread flour, and 120 grams of water. Mix it well so it's completely combined. Put an elastic band around the container so you can monitor the growth. Then it's time to Autolyse. Mix 704 grams of bread flour, 159 grams of whole grain wheat flour, and 566 grams of water. At this point I should have also been adding the spices, which would have made them completely be distributed through the bread, but I didn't, and you'll see later what that does. Mix everything together so that the flour is completely hydrated. Cover with a damp dish towel and leave until the levain has peaked. Mine can grow to triple the size, but you know your own starter. Then when the levain has peaked, mix 50 grams of water with 21 grams of salt. Pour 250 grams of the levain over the Autolyse flour and add the water. Then it's time to combine the water and the starter into the dough. This can take from 5 to 10 minutes. Keep going until you feel like it's properly dispersed. Cover it with a damp dish towel and leave it to rest for 30 minutes. Then when the 30 minutes are up, we start the bulk fermentation and we'll do 3 sets of stretch and folds. The first stretch and fold. The second stretch and fold. Now during the second stretch and fold, we'll add the olives between each stretch and fold. Then we'll do a Windowpane test to see if the dough has proper gluten development. And as you can see, it does. Then we put it in a bulking container. I like to use these plastic containers with clear sides, where I can mark where the dough is when I put it in. And we leave it to grow about 50 to 60%. It takes, for my starter, about 3 to 4 hours at room temperature. Then when the dough has grown, it's time to divide and pre-shape the dough. Pour the dough out onto your unfloured kitchen counter and divide it using a bench scraper. I usually weigh the dough, but you don't have to. We're going to work some strength into the surface of the dough. Grab the bottom of the dough closest to you and stretch it up and fold it halfway in over the dough. Continue with the top and the left and the right side. It's kind of like an envelope. Then flip the dough over. Put the bench scraper behind the dough and pull it forward so that the top of the dough gets pulled down in front of the dough, and then the top gets tighter. If an olive pops out, don't push it in, just remove it completely or add it in the back of the dough. Just keep going until you have a reasonably taut surface. And then it's time to pre-shape the other piece of dough. Once you're done with that, leave it to rest for 20 minutes to relax the gluten. And then when the 20 minutes up, it's time to final shape the dough. Start by flouring 2 oval bannetons with rice flour. Add a little bit of flour to your kitchen counter. Flip the piece of dough onto the flour. Stretch it out into a rectangle. Stretch one side out and fold it in over the dough. And repeat with the other side. Then roll the dough up tightly. It should end with the seam down towards the table. Seal the end by pulling the dough on the side down over the roll in the side. Put the shaped bread in an oval banneton with the seam upwards and put a plastic bag around it so that the dough doesn't dry out. Then it's time for the final proof. I prefer to retard my dough, so I take the 2 bannetons and put in the fridge until the next day. Then when you're ready to bake, put a Dutch oven or combi cooker in the oven and heat your oven to 260 degrees Celsius, about 500 degrees Fahrenheit, or gas mark 10. Let it heat for an hour. Then when the oven is hot, grab the bread out of the fridge and place it onto a peel with a piece of parchment paper. Slash the bread and put directly into the oven. Bake with the lid on for 20 minutes, then remove the lid and turn the oven down to 230 degrees Celsius. That's 450 degrees Fahrenheit, or gas mark 8. Bake for another 25 minutes until the bread is crusty, crunchy, and has a dark caramelized crust. Take the bread out of the oven and turn the oven back up to 260 degrees Celsius, 500 degrees Fahrenheit, and bake the other bread. And that's how that looks. All right, let's cut this bread and see how it looks on the inside.
So how about that bread? Deliciously crispy with those gorgeous olives scattered throughout the crumb. Here in Denmark, it's winter and pretty cold, and I need anything that can remind me of the sun. This bread certainly helps me in the right direction. And while it's wonderful when it's freshly baked, it's also delicious when toasted. I hope you learned something today. See you next time.